Hello and welcome to a Sunday edition of the Managing Madrid Podcast. I'm your host, Kiyan Sobani. We are here for a two-parter, part two, coming up with Hridyam and Ruben. A much-needed win for Castilla. They were desperate, winless in four. They need to get back in the race for Segunda. Backed by two absolute stunning golazos from Sergio Arribas. They're going to talk about that. That's coming up later, part two. Stick around. Part one happening right now. It's kind of slow. It's the international break. We got Real Madrid players in action. That's all being covered on the website, managingmadrid.com. Perfect time to talk about the greatest footballer in Real Madrid's history. Undoubtedly and irrefutably the greatest player in Champions League history. Cristiano Ronaldo. I feel like there's always a time for him to pop up on the podcast given his stature at the club. It's not completely random because this is on the back of Mehedi Hassan's retro visual analysis of Cristiano Ronaldo's time at the club. That's up on managingmadrid.com. I may share screen some of his visuals here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see, but if you're listening to it in your car or whatever, you can also see it all on Managing Madrid. It's pinned there. Mehedi, we'll start here. Welcome to the show. What made you want to write about this subject?
Hey, Kiyan, thanks for having me, as always. As you said, Ronaldo is always a player that keeps popping up in the Real Madrid universe. But I was planning to write this during this international break anyway. But truth to be told, the most honest answer is probably it was just a bit relaxing to get away from what's happening with Real Madrid right now and to just look back at some of the better times, some of the better performances. And some of it is actually under Carlo Ancelotti. So I just wanted to take that opportunity to write something on that. And these data analysis and the visual analysis, I've been doing it more regularly now. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to go look back, deep back. We have data from the 2011-12 season here as well, from the 2013-14 season, and of course the season where we won 5 trophies under Zidane. So I think this seemed like a good opportunity to do something like this, and I found some interesting stuff which was evident back at the time when I actually watched these games. We all watched these games, but just to look back at them from a different perspective, it was refreshing.
When you went into the data, was there anything in there that surprised you about, when you were going through it, anything that caught you off guard, or was it all kind of what you expected from what you remember of Cristiano's time?
Two things that caught me a bit off guard, both from the 2013-14 season, actually. One of them was that Cristiano Ronaldo, he received a lot of passes on the right flank. If you guys go ahead and look at the website or the visuals that were shared from the Managing Madrid Twitter account, you'll see that the pass receptions in 2013-14, a lot of the lighter colors, which means that he received a higher number of passes there, were on the right-hand side. So that kind of surprised me, that obviously it's there because it happened. When I tried to make sense of this to myself, I thought there was Bale, there was Di Maria, who would go on the left a lot, so Ronaldo might have just drifted on the right and then continued his run into the box from the right, and during this he probably received a lot of passes on the right hand side of the pitch. This was one of the things that surprised me. The other that surprised me, that he had a lot of take-ons even in 13-14, which dropped pretty significantly when you go a couple of years deeper. But as you can see on the screen that Kiyan's sharing right now, he played similar number of minutes in 2013-14 and 16-17. But his take-ons completed map that I drew for this article, that I made for this article, as you can see, 11-12, Cristiano Ronaldo was still probably at that time the world's best dribbler. He was devastating 1v1. By 13-14, if we remember, he was more of that guy who's in the box more, taking shots from the distance. He was still the European Golden Boot winner that year as well. But how he generated still a very high rate of successful take-ons in 13-14. I hadn't realized that. And that gradually, obviously, that, kind of cooled off in 17-16 with age and with the style of play, with how Real Madrid played and how Ronaldo played at that stage. So yeah, to recap again, the two things where he received passes in 13-14, and he was still a pretty good dribbler in 13-14.
So I think it's interesting to look at how the data kind of changes over year to year and ultimately kind of where it ends up at 16-17. I've long been of the belief that while Cristiano Ronaldo, his peak is, I think a lot would argue is anywhere between the 2011 to 2014 range, what was the year he scored 60?
I think that was 13-14 or 14-15. Ancelotti's second season. That year he scored 48 goals in La Liga alone, I think.
Right. So those years were incredible. And also because he was just an absolute bona fide freak athlete. Physically, he was unstoppable. He was so dynamic, so agile. There was really nothing you could do to defend him on the ball, off the ball, anything. I've always said that with Cristiano Ronaldo, there was something about his game when he was older, like in his last two seasons for Real Madrid, even though he wasn't at his absolute peak. I almost felt like he was at his peak in a weird way, even though the numbers don't back up what I'm saying, just because there was kind of like a wisdom and maturity to his game. There was a composure, there was an experience, there was something about him that you just still couldn't entirely measure, but you always just needed him on the field at all times. And I feel like in my mind, where it absolutely peaked, I was like, man, this guy, if he just retired today, it would just be the perfect moment to stop. Was the bicycle kick against Juventus in the Champions League, where it's like, how is he still doing this? Like, the physicality is incredible. That stage of his career for me was kind of like the most I enjoyed Cristiano Ronaldo, even more so than the peak numbers he had when he was younger. That phase I enjoyed the most. But it is interesting kind of when you look at the numbers and you see the regression in the take-ons and all that stuff. And I'll bring it back on the screen in a second. It is interesting to see that progression. But why don't we start, Mehedi, with the pass receptions? Do you want to explain that part of it?
Yeah. So the pass receptions, once again, is basically where did Cristiano Ronaldo receive all the passes provided to him in La Liga in the season of 2011-12, then 13-14, and then 16-17. Although, as I just explained, that he did receive a lot of passes on the right hand side, even in 13-14, you can see he received most passes in the opponent's half. 11-12, same thing. But interestingly, what Zidane did in 16-17 is he rested Ronaldo really well. And in all of Ronaldo's years, I have never seen him do this much defensive work that he did under Zidane in 16-17. I think that was the beauty of Zidane, that he can even make the great Cristiano Ronaldo, who is immune from defensive duties for almost every team he has ever played. But that Cristiano Ronaldo in 2016-17, he did a lot of defensive work, dropping down and also being more involved into the build-up than ever. Obviously, under Ancelotti and Mourinho, the team was a bit more transition-oriented. So Ronaldo he always had to focus more on the end product, on the final ball. But Zidane, from the beginning, he was a bit more possession-oriented than the other two to begin with. And as you can see, there are a lot of light marks, a lot of light blocks on the defensive half of Real Madrid in 16-17. That means he received a lot of balls deep and, was very much involved in the team's progression, even from his own half. The defensive map doesn't appear in this article, but That's just based off of the. I'm pretty sure like if I made that, that would translate into this as well. But uh, that was the season where he was involved all around very much. Although he didn't obviously score as many goals that he did in the previous two seasons, shown up here. But that's just one anecdote from there, that Zidane actually made him do stuff that no other manager did, and I think that was due to mutual respect. That was due to buying into the project that the manager is trying to create at the club. 2016-17 was just an unbelievable season. It was just a beautiful season.
You don't think Benitez could have asked him to do that?
Didn't Benitez ask him to do something like, he asked him to, I think, hit the crossbar to, perfect his free kicks. I think that's something Benitez asked, like to hit the crossbar. And I think Ronaldo said something that you should not hit the crossbar if you want to be perfect at free kicks. Something like that happened during that time. I'm pretty sure.
That and also Benitez should have been in jail for telling Modric not to use the outside.
Yeah,
he should have served that. That's at least 4 months. That should be a minimum 4 months in prison.
In solitary confinement.
What's interesting about his Cristiano dropping deeper in 16-17 is that 16-17 team was also quite possession based football, and a team that liked to control the game in the final third, and obviously, in kind of these zones that he's receiving here, that was also the Kroos, Isco, Modric triangle was around that area too. But Cristiano was a part of that build-up as well. Quick question. I assume before 11-12, was it hard to get this data?
I have the data on of 2009-10 onwards. Before 2009-10, there is no data like this.
Yeah. As always, I think like Football Reference, I think at one point put out a tweet. They said, "What would you like to see?" And I replied and I said, "Historical data, man. I'd love to know." I mean, maybe it's absolutely impossible and it's too unreasonable of a request, but I would love to see, like, Di Stefano amount of key passes. Yeah. That would be fascinating. If we ever got that data before I die, I'd be really happy. Take-ons. Walk us through. You kind of already touched on the beginning of the podcast, but whatever is left over.
Yeah. So just to bring that up one more time, Ronaldo was like still a monster with like 1v1 dribbling even by 2011-12. Remember those goals he would score like from 50 yards out and like point to his thigh muscles? That was all 2011-12. So he was still very, very fit. He's fit. Like he scored a couple of goals today even, I think, against Luxembourg. So he was very, very fit at that time, and it was difficult to contain him 1v1. And he wasn't someone like Vinicíus is very, very good at dribbling, but Vinicíus is not very physically strong. He's not a big guy. Ronaldo is a big guy. He was not only very agile or quick on his feet, but he was very strong as well. So that translates into his 2011-12 take-ons. And much to my surprise, that actually continued until 2013-14, when by that time we associate Ronaldo as more of a striker than a left winger, but we can see like how many take-ons he has completed on the left wing in La Liga, and playing almost like 800 minutes less than 2011-12. And then this started to fall off. I'm going to have to check the data for 14, 15 and 15-16. I basically wanted to do this based on like three eras, like the Mourinho era, the time of them, the Mourinho time and the Carlo time and the Zidane time. So I just picked like one season each. So in Zidane's like best season, his take-ons dropped quite a bit. But as I wrote in the article, then he actually flourished in other parts of the game. We could see the beauty of Ronaldo's off-ball movement a lot more at those times. And he would not just score goals by moving off the ball himself. He would sometimes create space for his teammates as well. So about Ronaldo, it's like, yes, like one part of his game kind of decayed over the time, but another part, that off-ball mover, flourished very, very nicely during that time. So yeah, that's all from the take-ons part.
The off-ball movement part of it is maybe that's why I think it was so impressive to me in his later years, because when you see the evolution of his game where he kind of relies less on the take-ons and more just about efficiency, it also told me a lot about his intelligence of the game, which I think is an underrated part of his game.
Yeah.
He is, to me, and probably not even, like, maybe I shouldn't be so humble about it and say, oh, it's my opinion. I think he might be, and probably is, the greatest off-ball mover in the history of the sport.
Oh, yes.
There's no one that could get into the spaces to... I mean, this in a lot of ways, the whole tap-in merchant thing that was given to him by so much of the messy football Twitter universe is actually a compliment in a way that they don't truly understand, because this whole thing about like, again, if it was that easy, nobody would have... I'm sorry. If it was that easy, everybody would have the amount of goals he had. Well, everyone could just score tap-ins. Why don't we just score tap-ins? Because it's so easy. Nobody got himself into that position more than him. The way he could... I remember had put out a video. It was called like Fox in the Box or something like that, like a few years ago. And the whole video was just like a few minutes of Cristiano Ronaldo moving off the ball and defenders not knowing where he is. He cuts one way, drops the other way. It's incredible to watch. And I think that's part of the reason why I think it was so impressive in his later years, where he just turned into this goal-scoring machine just by moving off the ball cleverly. Like, it was just a testament to his intelligence. There's the talent aspect, there's the athletic aspect and the technical aspect, but then there's the intelligence aspect that I think was actually grossly underrated with him. He's incredible brains to move around where he goes. Ball progression, progressive passes. It is pretty amazing to just see the sheer volume of him, everything that he does when he's younger, right? And then how it just kind of fades over time.
Yeah. Progressive passes again, 2011-12, the volume is a lot more. And 13-14, the volume is like 13-14's volume can still be made sense because he like played significant minutes less than what he did in 11-12. And remains true for 16-17, but yeah, in 16-17, in the final third, his progressive involvement, verticality probably reduced a little bit. But then again, you had players like Modric and Kroos just behind him, and also Benzema by that time has actually taken the role of more of a second striker rather than an out-and-out number 9. Ronaldo, although wearing 7, is our number 9 at that point in time. So I think that is the reason is why we see like lesser number of progressive passes in the final third. But the thing with Ronaldo is he's still very much involved. I just want to go on a tangent slightly here. Today I put out a visual from 11-12 where we have all the shots of Higuain, Benzema, and Ronaldo. On that, you'll see Higuain probably has lesser shots than he had goals in 11-12. He was that kind of a poacher that like whatever he touched it's either a goal or like he has less number of shots in 11-12. So well, that has its own beauty. He was fundamental in winning the league title that year as well.
Was that the year? That was like the one year I think that Cristiano Ronaldo actually wasn't the top scorer. It was Higuain, wasn't it? Was that the year? Or different year?
I think that's his first season. I think he and Higuain were joint top, or like Higuain scored a couple of goals more, something like that.
Yeah.
Ronaldo was the top scorer in 11-12. So coming back to 16-17 again, Ronaldo was still prolific, but in other ways, just not this, progressive passes in the final third. But if you can take a look at the left flank, he's still very involved, just not through the middle of the pitch or the right hand side. In the left flank, where again that Isco, Marcelo, Cruz zone on that side is still pretty prolific and pretty noticeable.
Yeah. Progressive carries, and this is legendary stuff. I mean, the volume of his ball carries is pretty striking. So take us through this part.
Yeah. So the blue arrows that you guys see on the screen, those are basically carries not generated from passes. I should have mentioned this somewhere. Apologies for that, but I can explain it here. So the yellow colored. Oh, by the way, another thing. This is kind of an Easter egg that I'm probably popping. The coloring here is based on the trims on the kit of that particular season. So gold for 11-12. Orange for 13-14, and 16-17 we had the purple away kit, so the coloring is based on that. But the blue lines, those meaning like he probably that particular progressive carry is from a ball recovery or a take on or whatever. But the rest are based off of passes. There are almost none in 16-17, but even in 16-17 he was still a very dominant ball progressor. So this is one part that didn't, reduce with age or reduce with the seasons. That is his ability to carry the ball, and that is not on the left flank only. That is through the middle. That is through the right. That is everywhere. So this is another thing that I was fascinated. By the time I had made the other charts, I was pretty sure I would see a reduction in volume for 16-17 for carries, but I didn't. He carried the ball almost similarly that he did in his younger years. So that was fascinating to see.
Yeah, that's one thing that stood out to me too, is that in all these metrics, they all kind of dropped off, and then this one doesn't really. That was interesting to see. Time spent in the half spaces.
This is passes basically into the half spaces and the zone 14.
Passes that not he received, passes he made into the half spaces.
Yeah,
correct?
Passes he made. Okay. Passes he played in the half spaces and zone 14. The volume reduces over time here, but this is where the Cristiano Ronaldo, the playmaker thing comes forward, because he was such a great elite goal scorer that we almost remember nothing from his games apart from his goals. And you can't become the second highest assist provider in the history of a club like Real Madrid if you're not good at other things in football other than just scoring. And he held that record, I think, until last year. Benzema broke it, I think, sometime last year or the year before. He was Real Madrid's all-time top scorer and all-time top assist provider for a few years at least. And
correct me if I'm wrong. We don't have assist records really in Real Madrid's history. We just don't. You can't look up Di Stefano's assist numbers.
Yeah, but I think that was other stat providers. They did it. Ronaldo had 132, and Benzema broke it at some point in time. Now Benzema is the all-time assist provider and second all-time scorer. So just to bring that point again, that we don't really remember much other than his scoring, that how good he was doing other things as well. And Ronaldo has some very slick passing skills that other players don't. One of those was his he also has a pretty good outside of the boot pass. I think during one of his younger years, he has a couple of assists like that off of Benzema. So it was nice to see that popping up in my charts, that what he did in those half spaces, tight areas, and also in the zone 14, where that is a zone where build up really comes true, because even in recent years, if we remember, Real Madrid struggles to get the ball in these kind of zones and then work off of those areas.
I believe maybe I'll just bring it up now because I'm not sure if there's another section about that. But with regards to assists, the other thing that kind of worked against him in some ways is that there was that video, I don't know if you remember, that circulated a couple years ago somewhere. I don't know if maybe it was even Managing Madrid or somebody else that put out a video. It was like a massive compilation of Ronaldo setting up Benzema and Benzema missing sitters like over the years. And we don't really have expected assists, I don't think, before
2016. I don't think we have
2000. Yeah, 2000. Yeah. We don't have it for the 2016, 2017 season, according to Football Reference. So, so you just wonder how many assists he would have actually had.
Yeah.
That is.
Do you know the conspiracy theory that some people have that Benzema willingly missed those chances so that someday he can break his all-time assist record?
Thinking ahead of all of us, man. It's 4D chess.
Yeah, ahead of his time.
Ahead of his time. All right, the last section here is progressive carries.
Yeah, so the progressive carry destinations is basically where the progressive carries are obviously shown on the chart above, but this is where the progressive carries end, where Ronaldo probably gave the ball away to somebody else, or he got dispossessed himself, or he got into another action, like took a shot, something like that. This is, again, this made very much sense because at the beginning you can see all his progressive carries ending on the left wing mostly, then gradually coming into the center in the later years of 13 and 14. That was pretty quick. This was just a quick check of the eye test we have all seen over the years who have watched Ronaldo and Real Madrid closely. So yeah, that's that.
Pretty awesome, impressive that in 13-14 he was getting into the box like this with his ball carries this much. I guess here's a future project for you. I'd be interested to see, compared to other great ball carriers, who's ending in the box the most.
Yeah, I have just out of curiosity, I have drawn up some of these stuff of like Messi in La Liga. We would not like it. We wouldn't enjoy talking about those. Those are ridiculous. So especially like his Messi's take-on map is like all like the whole pitch is almost gone. It's and so is his like progressive progressive passes. I think you can just, if you see it, you can easily see like which passes of those are to Jordi Alba on the left wing. But yeah, I would enjoy making something like that, like comparing Ronaldo stacking against other La Liga players. I have the La Liga data for a few years. I have the 3P data as well. So it's something interesting. It's something that I find very much interest in doing.
It's great stuff. I wanted to end just with this note. He is Cristiano Ronaldo. He is bizarrely, I mean, on this podcast anyway, I'm sure it's not like that on Twitter, but he is bizarrely just not discussed much. And I think it's because, and I don't mean like after retirement, it's like he comes up on the podcast just in the sense of like, we just kind of mentioned in passing, he's the greatest player the club has ever had. And that's it. But I think, although like, no, we've had segments about like reflecting on, I think his, some portions of his career, but even I remember when he was playing for Real Madrid, there was only so much we could say on the podcast other than, well, that was amazing. Like we were almost oddly desensitized to what he was doing. Like for every player on the team, we'd go into like a 10-minute analysis of their performance. With Ronaldo, was like, oh yeah, just scored again. Like what else do you say? He's amazing. Like he's the best player we have. And I don't know what it is. And I just feel like maybe sometimes when you're that good, you almost get punished because people get desensitized and then there's just expectation that this is what you do every day. And then you're unfairly held to this pedestal when you don't perform all of a sudden. It's like, it's like, oh, he had a bad game. And then you look at the numbers, he's had like, 7 shots, 1 goal, 4 dribbles or something like that. And it's like, we hold him to it. So just like a player that I felt like a segment like this was in some ways overdue because he just hasn't been talked about that much on the podcast because as I said, like, it's just like the analysis of him was always like, that was amazing. And then you move on to the next tactical discussion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, like once a player leaves the club, it's only natural that even if you're the great Cristiano Ronaldo, that the conversation about you, the focus on you will fade away. Although I think Ronaldo is the only player, even like after he has left Real Madrid, it's been how many years now? 5 years since he has left, but still, like any Real Madrid group chat I get in, if he's scoring a goal against any team in the Euro qualifiers, even if he's like scoring a goal for his club in Saudi Arabia, his name keeps popping up. But I think it's important that we keep these discussions, this footballing discussions at least, going on, because he has done a hell of a lot for Real Madrid, and that needs to be a celebratory thing. That needs to be celebrated, the footballing side of things, always, because I mean, 450 goals in 9 years is pretty insane. Ronaldo at Real Madrid has to be regarded as one of the best times for any player at any club, and I think that's the way it should be. His career obviously didn't transpire the way probably he wanted after leaving Real Madrid, but I think we shouldn't really worry about that. We have enough good memories of him to discuss for, I think, one lifetime.
Yeah, undoubtedly. So this was fun, Mehedi. Thanks for putting this visual analysis together. Again, it's on managingmadrid.com. It's pinned on the homepage. You'll also find a feature from Matt. You'll also find a feature from me and a bunch of just timely news, as always. There was actually like a decent amount of stuff during the international break that we covered. Everything from all the quotes in the Brazilian camp about Ancelotti, Courtois leaving Belgium's camp today with an injury, hopefully just a minor one. He's returning to Madrid. There's a daily thread. In case you didn't know that, there's a daily thread where people just go and talk about everything they want to talk about. And Sam Leverage wrote a great piece breaking down Tobias, Nacho, and Carvajal for Spain in their win against Norway. Mehedi wrote about Luka Modric, and we're covering everything. So go check it out on the site. Everybody stick around for part 2. Mehedi, thanks for joining the show. And if you're not a patron yet, you're going to miss a live Zoom call. Is one of the bonus shows this week and every week. You can join us on Zoom, do Q&A with us. That's happening on Wednesday, I think. Go to patreon.com/Managing Madrid. Mehedi, thanks, buddy. Great chatting.
Thanks, Kiyan.
Hello, and welcome to another Castilla Corner. Today I'm joined by Ruben. We don't have Chris here, which is a shame. Ruben, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And how about yourself?
Yeah, I could be better. I have a stomach ache.
We just discussed that there's a curse upon us, so at least one of us has to be sick when we record these pods. But let's hope it's not going to be like that for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's the way things go now for us.
Yeah.
Castilla won.
Castilla won.
Shock. It's a shock. They haven't won a single game in a month.
Yeah, and I look at the table now. It's looking good. We're second, but that's almost unbelievable when you think about how many points we've dropped. And this was a win which was very important, and you could see it also on the players towards the end, how much it meant to them.
Yeah, and also like the game. I don't think. I mean, we are second for now, but the teams below us haven't really played their games, so we might drop to like third. It depends on like how the other teams play, but yeah, Castilla won. Arribas turned into a god again. Scored 2 goals. One of them was just mind blowing. A shot from like 30 yards.
The first one, or
yeah, the first one. Yeah.
I have tried to watch the replays over and over again. Do you think was it a deflection?
To be honest with you, the replays that were shown on the broadcast, they were not helping. They were not helping, and
it was like I watched the replay, and the replay was only showing when the ball was already in the net, so it was impossible to see.
Yeah, the broadcast was a bit shady, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it was a deflection, but it could have been, but I don't think it was. The goal itself was really good. It was well taken.
I saw. I think it was Alvaro holding his hands over his head, just in disbelief of what he saw. So I guess either way, it was a fantastic goal, and both of his goals from long range. The second one, horrible mistake from the goalkeeper, who just passed it to Arribas from a free kick for no reason. But then to actually be able to hit the target from that range and to get it over the goalkeeper and everything, that was so impressive. So this was all down to Arribas.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, simply put.
Yeah, second goal. Yeah, as you said, it was due to a big mistake from the goalkeeper, but you can't score that unless you know how to play football. If you're not good at football, you wouldn't be able to score that. And Arribas in general had a pretty good game. I couldn't watch a bit of it because I'm not well, but what would you say his performance in general, like Arribas' performance in general, how was it?
It's very easy to describe Arribas' games. You don't really have to watch them because he always does well with the ball, and he makes the right solutions. He dribbles out of tight spaces. He often dribbles into tight spaces, and I think that was unnecessary. But then he's so good that he always comes out of it and releases the ball in a good moment, and just does everything right. What has missed for him sometimes during the season, because he had an amazing start and then it was not as great, but he still did all those small things. But what is when Arribas is on his best? It's like today, when he gets you out of your seat, scoring screamers and making those creating those moments which decide the game, and that's what he did today. And this is why it's those kind of performances which make people say that he's ready now for the first team and has been for a while. So to sum up, it's easy to say how Arribas played, because he's always good, but today he was extra good.
That's a fair assessment. I was thinking, I mean, the first team, they've already lost the league. I mean, it's obvious at this point. Do you think, I mean, we already know the answer, but I'm pretty sure it's it's an obvious choice to have Arribas play at least a few games for the first team on the wing, or just play for the first team, because you don't really want your starters to play most of the games when the league is already decided. Like you don't need to play Vinicíus, Rodrigo, not Rodrigo, but Vinicíus and all the other players every single game, when you can have Arribas get some minutes and maybe Rodrigo play on the left and stuff. You don't really need to play all your starters at once now, and Arribas could benefit from that. But at the same time, Castilla also need him.
Yes.
In the so it's a tough situation to be in. What would you do if you were? Well, if you were Ancelotti, what would you do?
Yeah, this is a very difficult situation, because I've mentioned this before on the podcast, and I want to look for the confirmation that this rule still exists. But the fact that a player from the second team cannot play more than 10 games and keep playing for the second team, because I guess that's a rule that was put in place because you cannot just register a squad of 50 players. I mean, So if a player gets over 10 games and being registered with the second team, then he will immediately become part of the first team. And if that rule is still in place, what do you do for? I think this is a really difficult discussion to have. What does benefit the club long term? Because short term, I think getting Arribas, Alvaro, Vinicíus, Tobias up to the first team, they could even play most games towards the end of the season. And this would be good short term because you could see, are those players ready to be part of the first team next season? Or do we, for example, need to go outside to find a backup striker, new right back, etc.? But if you take them away from Castilla, if you make them play with the first team every week, they go to, Pamplona to play against Osasuna, and they are not available for the away trip with Castilla for a tough game against Alcorcón or Deportivo. I mean, not only do you miss short term, you miss the opportunity to get promoted, but also long term to establish Castilla at a higher level. And for example, when Endrick arrives, you would have the opportunity to play him at a higher level and not have to loan him out and do this huge gamble, which we always fail on. So I honestly think this is a tough discussion. I think when you see that, for example, Alvaro can do a job, he can actually be our best backup striker. If that's the situation, the league is on the line, I think it's easier to make the choice. You have to prioritize first team. But in this case, when the league is done, I'm honestly not sure what's the best thing to do. And so I'm curious to hear what you think about that.
I mean, I would probably, as you said, it's a very tough situation, but I would play because here's the thing, Arribas, if he doesn't excel in these games, like if he plays for Castilla, it's like the whole season has been insane for him, right? And he still hasn't gotten the opportunities he deserves for the first team. So even if he replicates this form next season for Castilla, he wouldn't really, if that's assuming if Ancelotti stays as our manager. But I don't think it would change that much for him in terms of where he is, on what level he plays. So if he plays not like 10 games, but like 3 or 4 games and has really good games and then goes back to Castilla, I think that would be more fun and like more important for his growth, for his playing time for the first team. Because if you play him for against not really good opposition, if you don't have him for Castilla against a really bad opposition, and you can you can take that risk, I think playing him for the first team would be a better option because.
Because that already happened a couple of times when I don't remember when we played, but we did gamble on taking Arribas. I think it was to the Club World Cup, and they did win without him. Did a fantastic performance, I remember. So yeah, it is possible.
Yeah, Nico Paz could play could be the player. Yeah, so I think you can't play him every single game for the first team because Castilla do need him. He is their best player, but You can afford not having him for a couple of games and then see how he does as a starter for the first team, because you can't really see how well he can do in 5 minutes, like towards the end of the game, even though he did score in the Club World Cup. But
and Alvaro as well. I mean, they're taking their opportunities like crazy. So
exactly.
It's another reason to play them for the first team. But I mean, now it's so difficult. I think, a lot of these points which I'm bringing up have already been brought up several times. But I mean, imagine being Nacho and Vinicíus Tobias plays ahead of you. I don't think he would even consider renewing. If I think he would have taken that as as disrespect. So now I think it's you have a first team, you have a second team. That's also part of the game. You have a 25-man squad for the first team, 25-man squad for the second team, and they train mostly separately. They have different coaches. They go to different trips. They are different teams. So I don't think it's that simple to just promote someone out of nothing and put them ahead of someone who is a big part of the first team dressing room. And Nacho is our second captain, for example. And so I think it's difficult. But when I look at Vinicíus Tobias today, for example, he does have one challenge, which is he totally misjudges and gets a yellow card quite early on. But he does have so many of the qualities which we need from our fullback. And I think he's is it your dog?
Yeah, that's my dog.
Yeah. So I think he's got so many of the qualities which we need, and it's such a shame that we don't get to see him getting tested for the first team, because I mean, imagine if he just does well, and like Miguel Gutierrez, he was playing almost better for the first team than for Castilla. So there are those cases, and I think the rest of the season now is a very interesting situation, and I think without a doubt the Castilla players should get more opportunities, and that's for sure. And I would be very sad if if Ancelotti still refuses to do that. But how much? That's the discussion.
Yeah. Vinicíus Tobias would be really good for the first team, in my opinion, because I mean, we do need a right back, and I was having this conversation with Chris the other day, and I mean, Carvajal hasn't really had his best season. I think it's the opposite.
Not, no. Yeah.
It's just I am not his biggest fan, to say the least.
He's one of the players who I'm not saying I'm tired of him, but
I'm tired of him.
Too many bad performances now. It's when Kiyan and Sid were putting together their best lineup, and I think they put Nacho at right back. I mean, no disrespect to Nacho, but he gives almost nothing offensively from the right back. He's played there many times, and he's crossing, for example, and overlapping. No. So when that's the situation, it says a lot about Carvajal's season.
Yeah, and if you look at Carvajal and Vinicíus Tobias, we know that both of these players are going to make mistakes. But at least Vinicíus Tobias has the potential to improve and work on those mistakes. I don't think Carvajal will ever be near his peak, which was 2016-17.
That's a great point, and I have to laugh a little bit because when I was thinking during the game that, okay, let's say we promote Vinicíus Tobias, we have to be ready for him to make mistakes. For example, towards the end, inside the penalty area, he made a fantastic sliding tackle, but it was so risky. And I thought he had made a penalty, but in the end, he got the ball.
Yeah.
Then I was thinking, okay, if we promote him, we have to accept there will be mistakes. The team will lose points sometimes because of him. But you have to laugh when you think about it's not like Carvajal does not make any mistakes. I mean, he makes plenty of mistakes. And I watched a little bit of him yesterday when they played against Norway. And lost the ball in a dangerous situation. So this is maybe I have to criticize myself here a little bit, because sometimes I think the first team players make no mistakes and the Castilla players make a lot of mistakes. No, it's not that simple. It's both players would make mistakes. Maybe Vinicíus Tobias more than Carvajal, but there are so many pros and cons now, and it's at least worth trying. I think that's what people are upset about.
Yeah, and if we think of Castilla, they do have another right back that could play pretty well.
Yeah.
I think his name is Jimenez, right? Alex Jimenez.
Yeah, they have a couple of good right backs. They have David Jimenez, Alex Jimenez. They have this guy's not really. He's not nearly ready because he's just 15. But they also signed Jesus Fortea from Atletico. He's a very good talent. Has already played with Juvenil, and so we are well covered at right back. So that's a good point. It's not like Vinicíus Tobias goes out and we have no one to replace him with at Castilla.
Yeah, obviously they're not going to be as good as Tobias, but I think at least just like with Arribas, probably more than Arribas, sorry, that Castilla could risk not having Vinicíus Tobias for a few games. Yeah. And it would be better because if we're being serious about this, it would be a good test for how good. Well, I mean, it's not fair on him because obviously he's going to get more opportunities in the future, but it's going to be a good test on how good he is, Vinicíus is, and how good Madrid think he is.
Yeah.
And based on that, they could make a decision on whether he's actually good enough for the first team and
also whether to sign him, because remember, he's not officially a Real Madrid player yet.
Yep. And that's exactly what I meant. It's just it would make sense on so many different levels to play Vinicíus Tobias for a few games at right back for the first team. It just needs to happen because, I mean, Carvajal is making similar mistakes to Vinicíus Tobias, but in the Champions League. So
yes, and also it's not like Carvajal would be worse with less playing time. I actually think he would benefit from it because he's playing a lot. He's playing in the league. He's playing in the Champions League now. He's going on international duty, playing against Norway, and surely the physical demand on him is high, and he would benefit from some rest. So the question is it okay to bring in Vinicíus Tobias over Odriozola and Lucas Vázquez, for example? For me, it's yes, but I can see why a manager like Ancelotti hesitates to bring in Vinicíus Tobias ahead of the ever-loyal Lucas Vázquez, for example.
Yeah, but at the same time, Lucas Vázquez. I mean, I see what you mean. It's like the point you brought up for Nacho, but I think Vinicíus Tobias deserves at least a couple more games for the first team.
Yeah, it's not a lot to ask. So
yeah, exactly. I don't think Lucas Vázquez would feel bad about it. I mean,
so this is what this is the downside of changing managers all the time. Why on earth would Ancelotti prioritize the kids? Why? I guess he could benefit from it because that's part of the club's long-term strategy to go with the youngsters and blah blah blah. But if Ancelotti plays Vinicíus Tobias and he fouls someone inside the penalty area and we lose because of that, I mean, Ancelotti will lose his job more likely because of results than because of not playing youngsters. So the first team manager needs to also have incentives to play the academy players. Right now, there are not many, and I totally understand Ancelotti. I mean, if I were in his shoes, I think I would do the same. I don't think I would play a single academy player unless I was sure, like for example Alvaro, he's better than I think he can give me more than Mariano, for example. So in that case, I'd play Alvaro, but if I knew that my dream job, I would lose it. If I played too many youngsters, why on earth would you do that? I don't think it's sensible to ask a manager to do that.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you know the league's lost anyway.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So the question is, do you then prioritize to give some new kids a chance to check their level before next season, or do you prioritize to play Lucas Vázquez to make sure he's ready if Carvajal gets an injury the backup will have a match rhythm and all of those things, and just to maintain the harmony in the squad and all of those things. I think from a first team coach perspective, playing academy players makes little sense, to be honest.
Interesting.
But from a club's perspective, of course, it's another situation, and also this could be maybe a good bridge, if that you can call it that, over to the manager discussion. I think it's worth talking a little bit about Raúl, who I personally think. Let's see if you agree with me.
Okay.
I think the manager who has the highest chance, including Ancelotti, of being a Real Madrid coach next season is Raúl. I think that's the most likely candidate. What do you think?
I mean, I would say I can see what you mean. I see what you mean. But I don't want that to happen. I mean, I do want it to happen because I see Raúl's potential, but my opinion on him as a manager has changed a little bit. Not in terms of how much potential he has, but if he's ready for the first team job.
Okay.
And I mean, here's the thing though. This is why I'm conflicted. If we go for Raúl as the first team manager, I mean, he's a good manager and he will do. He most probably he would do well with the first team. But then if we let him go to another club, what are the chances the paths align again? You know how if he gets another job, he does well there, and when he leaves that job for a bigger job, Madrid to already have a manager of their own. I don't think Raúl and Real Madrid would cross paths again. There's a big possibility that they don't in the future.
Yeah, like the Xabi Alonso situation, you mean?
Kind of, but Xabi Alonso still I would take Xabi Alonso at Madrid just the same way I would take Raúl, but I think Xabi Alonso is a bit more experienced now because he's managing in Europe and he's managing, a team that is playing in the Europa League, which is not bad. It's the same as Xavi.
But I meant, is your point that once one of those coaches leave the club, it's difficult. It's not that likely that Real Madrid will bring them back again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it depends on how bad the situation is and whether they are available or not. And I don't know if Raúl is we can't let him go now because we need him. If he's that good, I'm not sure. But at the same time, I would prefer him to Pochettino if that makes sense. I mean, I like Pochettino. I think I used to like Pochettino. I think that he was a really good manager a few years ago, but I think that ship has sailed, and I would prefer having Raúl over him, but I wouldn't prefer having Raúl over, say, Nagelsmann.
But do you agree that, or do you disagree, or agree with the Raúl is most likely to be the next Real Madrid manager, or do you think that's not the case either?
It's it can be, but
if you had to put money on it, not from your preferences, not who you think is best, but who do you think Real Madrid will choose next season?
It's either going to be, it could be Zidane as well. I mean, if Zidane wants to come back, that is. But yeah, Raúl does have a big shot of becoming the first team manager. Yeah.
For me, I see just a lot of outside candidates. I see, maybe Florentino could convince Zidane. And if he could, I think he would choose him over Raúl. Maybe, Xabi Alonso could be an option before Bayern stole him. Tuchel could have been an option. Nagelsmann, now that he's free, could be an option. But there's a lot of could be an option kind of managers. I think Raúl is the one who's just, he's a clear candidate. And
he is. Yeah.
I think
Pochettino is also.
Yeah, I guess
as
Real Madrid it's not as easy to read Real Madrid anymore. Before it was just the press knew everything, but for a few years now Real Madrid has been more closed, better at hiding their intentions. For example, I remember when Zidane first left, and I don't remember who was linked with the job. I think there were a few, but all of a sudden, bam! Comunicado oficial, Lopetegui, new Real Madrid manager, out of the blue. No one, I don't think anyone expected it, and not even the Spanish Football Federation. They didn't expect it, so that's why there was so much noise, and he was fired and everything. But I mean, so you could be right. Maybe Real Madrid have already asked Pochettino, are you interested? Of course, he would be interested. But I mean, so there could be a surprise. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, Raúl does seem like I think Perez rates Raúl quite highly, and I think Raúl would be given a shot because he's doing well with Castilla. But if it were up to me, and if Tuchel didn't join Bayern, I would go for Tuchel without a shadow of a doubt. Like, he's one of my favorite managers, and I think he would do well with Madrid. He probably would have, like, if he's given a couple signings, even if he isn't, like, I think Tuchel would do really well with what he has at the club. He would demand more signings for sure, but
it seemed like you are not as high as Raúl as before. Is there any reason for? Is it the recent results or?
No. It's just like I do think Raúl has a lot of potential, and I think he could become a great manager. But I'm just looking at one side of it right now, which is the experience. It's not based on my opinion on Raúl as a manager overall, because I do like him and I do want him to succeed and do want him to manage Madrid eventually. But I just don't know if he is ready right now. Because I know I said it, like I would choose him over Ancelotti. I still would, but like if we have, because we have Nagelsmann available right now, we have not many other options. But I mean, I would choose Nagelsmann over Raúl, but I would choose Raúl over the other options that we have. Does that make sense? I mean, he's second on my priority list. If that's what you're asking.
I mean, if we're going to discuss this experience stuff, I agree 100%. It's a gamble to go with Raúl, and people sometimes make it out to be a safe option to go with the Castilla manager, and I couldn't. I don't agree with that at all. I think Pochettino, that's not a gamble. That's what you're gonna get. I think you're gonna get a group that's satisfied with the coach. Tactically, how he's done, but then you also know that he hasn't been able to do it in the big games, and
exactly.
to decide it in his favor when it comes to trophies. So that doesn't seem to me like a gamble. Raúl, on the other hand, has never managed in the Champions League, has never managed stars, has never done any of those things at the highest level. So for me, that's the biggest gamble. The only part of it that's not a gamble is you know him. He knows the club. For 4 years now, he's been Castilla's manager, and also before that, he's been in the academy for a while as well as a coach. He's, of course, a legend of the club, and he's well respected. He would get the respect of the group from the start. So in that case, it's not a gamble. But when it comes to almost anything else, that's a bigger gamble than the other managers that's on the list.
Yeah, I could say the same about Xabi Alonso, but he actually has some experience, which is why. And I do I've watched a lot of Bayer Leverkusen this season after he joined, and I think he's doing a really good job there. I mean, he beat Bayern, which is it's not easy. Barca couldn't beat Bayern, and I mean, he's done well in the league. They are now, I think, 10th or 9th. They were in the relegation zone before he joined, and he's also doing well in the Europa League. He's in the round of 16 or quarterfinals. I'm not sure which one. But yeah, the point is he's doing really well, and I think he could become another really good manager. But it's the same as Raúl. It might be a bit too soon to bring him in.
What I find interesting here is that when we talk about when we criticize Ancelotti first and foremost, because I'm one of the few who maybe if I could choose between all the realistic managers, I would maybe just go with Ancelotti one more year because I think I like him a lot. But my observation when people criticize Ancelotti, what's the deal with the criticism? They criticize, of course, the results. That's natural. But apart from the results, even before the results started to get bad, for me, what I remember people criticizing the most is not using the younger players. But when we discuss who is going to be the next manager to replace him, the ability to use younger players is almost never brought up. So I feel that's a bit, counterintuitive. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
I mean, how important for us is it that the next manager will use Arribas, Alvaro, Vinicíus, Tobias, academy players in general? Is this a must for us? And therefore, in that case, Raúl would be a good option. But to me, it doesn't seem like people really care that much. It just seems like they like to complain about Ancelotti. They don't have that many things to complain about with Ancelotti because, in general, both spells have been very good, and they go to one of the few things that's obvious. He doesn't use Castilla players. But do we really care? Does the fans really care? That's my question.
I would want to see more Castilla players involved with the first team where it's needed, because we know that the right wing has been like some position that we need a reinforcement in, right? We know that right back is a position that we can get more out of if we use someone else. Those are the positions that I'm talking about. Other than that, I mean, you can't really use other academy players because you don't really need to use other academy players. But if you have Arribas, if you have Vinicíus, you might as well try them out for the first team at some point during the season to see how well they play. My problem with Ancelotti isn't really this. Like, he's a good manager. Obviously, winning the Champions League last season was a historic feat, and I wasn't expecting that at all. But in my opinion, it's just like, for example, if you look at the post-match quotes from Ancelotti against like Barca, 2 times in a row, he's been like, "Yeah, we played well. We didn't deserve the loss," and he just cannot, like, I don't know. I just don't see that as something to, like, hold your head high from, because I didn't see a good performance from Madrid in either of those games, and he still managed to think that, okay, you know what, this was a good performance. I think we should learn from this, and we should try the same thing again, see if it works again. No, it's like there are things about Ancelotti that I don't like.
But don't you agree that what you just mentioned, saying a few things in press conference, isn't that like a small detail? Ancelotti in the big picture is a fantastic guy in press conference, almost never says anything wrong. So isn't this like a few minor details?
No, I mean, no, it's like, for me, if you don't see that the game you played was not good enough, it's important. I'm not saying just sack him because of it. I'm not saying that. It's just like the little things matter, and if you do most of those little things wrong, and it might lead up to you being sacked, is what I mean. I'm not saying Ancelotti's doing everything wrong. He's not. He's clearly not. But from the resources he has, if he can't sign anyone, he's doing a good job. But there are other things about him that just, like, they don't sit well with me. Like, I really don't have like much to say. I mean, here's the thing, right? Okay, I'm kind of my thoughts are a bit all over the place, so bear with me. But Ancelotti I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but this league title definitely 100% was retainable. But then it just didn't happen because obviously it's just not up to Ancelotti, it's up to the players as well. But at the end of the day, he is the coach. I think someone else would have been able to do a better job at trying to, because if we are 12 points behind Barcelona, 12 points behind Barcelona in March, that's a big issue that needs to be fixed. We are doing well in the Champions League. That's not an issue. I'm talking about the league because that's the place where we play the most games. If you're 12 points behind our biggest leaders, our biggest rivals, it's a really big problem in my opinion. And it was the same with Zidane.
Of course, it's a big problem. But for me, what would be like a realistic? Okay, let's say we start a new season and we say, okay, we want about this many points. What would be like a good season, you think?
A good season in terms
how many
of
points in the league, and then we would be satisfied. This is the amount of points we should aim at.
I mean, it doesn't really depend. I mean, I see what you mean. Like how many points we need. I'm not saying we should have like 100 points every season. We can't do that, but I'm expecting at least like 90. I mean, 90 is not big. Like not a bad show.
90, that would be a very good season, I would say. With the current squad we have, that would be overperforming, I would say, because of especially when we have Benzema injured and all of the problems we have with the squad. But this is just something I have to say about the criticism of Ancelotti, that we are 12 points behind, therefore it cannot be good enough. If Barca continue with their current average of points, they will finish the season on 99 points. 99 points. So they are having an historic start, or an historic season in general. So for me, to expect Ancelotti to keep up with that kind of results, I don't think it's realistic. I just think Barcelona are overperforming. They are having some luck with how the opponents play. They have a good goalkeeper. That's not we also have a good goalkeeper. I mean, that's not an excuse. But there's some refereeing decisions maybe, and I don't watch Barcelona. I always decide not to watch them. So, but this is what I hear, that they win a lot of games 1-0. That's a fact. The other teams are not scoring against them at all. Meanwhile, in Europe, it's totally different. So for me, it just seems like this is kind of a weird season where Barca, I'm not going to say it's a freak season for Barca, but they are a different team in Europe and La Liga. And I just honestly don't think it's realistic to keep up with a team which is almost going to get 100 points. I mean, 100 points, that was the numbers of Mourinho, Guardiola, and when we had Ronaldo, Messi against each other, Xavi against Modric in his prime. I mean, all of these players, I don't think it's realistic to keep up with a team which is about to take 99 points. That's what I'm saying. And I don't see, if Raúl comes in, for example, are we expecting this to get better? He can be better, but no, I think this is a really tough situation, and I agree that changing just for the sake of it, that's the Real Madrid way when it comes to manager, and often it works. But I think Ancelotti has done fantastically well. Remember how, and this goes also into the way of how do you use the younger players. Remember, and for a couple of years now, we've been very well adjusted to these changes, the Ancelotti effect. But remember, before Ancelotti arrived, why did we get results with Zidane? It was because of the defense. We scored very few goals. It was just Benzema. Vinicíus, under Ancelotti, has gone from being a player who doesn't score to now being a world-class player. Rodrigo scoring more goals. Valverde, the same. Sometimes we are lining up with a front three of Vinicíus, Rodrigo and Valverde. If you had said that to people 2 or 3 years ago, I mean, it would be a horrific front three. But now it's all actually possible. He's also used Camavinga, and I mean, don't you think he gets too little credit for using the younger players? I guess we're a Castilla podcast, so we should criticize him for not using Castilla players. But in general, when it comes to younger players, I think he has done a great job, to be honest.
Yeah, last season he wasn't really using younger players until we saw that run in the Champions League. Like when he started using Rodrigo and Camavinga off the bench, I think that's when he gained their trust. Like that's when the players gained Ancelotti's trust, and I think that carried on to this season. And he has done well with young players. I 100% agree that Camavinga. I mean, he's considered untouchable now by Ancelotti, which is a huge deal because he didn't start any games last season. So, I mean, yes, I don't disagree with you at all in this sense that he's used the younger players well this season. And yeah, he's done, as I said, he's done many things right. But he's also been a bit like lackluster sometimes, and the games that we play, we could do better than how we usually do sometimes.
Yes,
and
for sure.
That's not all up to Ancelotti, but a huge part of it is still on Ancelotti, right? And most of these games that we lose or draw are the games against like the games that we should actually win. Yeah. It's like you draw against Girona, you don't win against Vallecano. Well, Vallecano are a good team, but if you don't win against so I mean things like that. That's why Madrid are like at the state they're at. I mean Barcelona, they have good players, but guess what? Real Madrid also have good players. Maybe their attack is not as good as I mean their depth is not as good as Barcelona, but I can't agree with your take that we can't compete with Barcelona just because they're having a freak season. They are having a freak season, I agree, but I think Madrid should be doing way better than how they are now, and they should at least give Barca a run for their money. It's like this is not even close, and that's just.
Yeah, but with our squad, as I'm just going to repeat my points now, so I'm not going to do that. But I just think with our squad, with our injuries, no attacking fullback involvement. I mean, I think it's difficult to get close to 99 if that's what Barca end up having. So, but yeah, of course, Ancelotti could do better, but I think any manager who comes in will get that. Will be told that you can do better in some way. So that's why Real Madrid always change manager after a couple of years. You said Tuchel was your favorite. If he came in, do you think he would prioritize Arribas, Alvaro, Vinicíus, Tobias? I would say no.
I mean, I'm not saying that he would do it because I like Tuchel because of other things. I don't like him for his involvement with young players.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. He is still a really good manager. I mean, would you not take him in Madrid?
Well, he has had some dressing room trouble. To be honest, I think he was one of the best candidates. I think maybe he will be the safest choice when it comes to results. But I think also Real Madrid now need to take a really important look at this. What is our strategy? Because if I'm going to go against Ancelotti, who I love, it would be that there is, and this was also a criticism with Zidane. Real Madrid's transfer policy is the following: sign the best young players and hope that they will develop enough to become star players. Vinicíus, the perfect example. Also Militao, and a lot of players have succeeded in this way. But then your managers do not follow that path. You have a transfer policy which is in one way, and then you have managers who don't really fit that policy, and maybe that's good because you want a balance. As I said, I think Ancelotti with Militao, Valverde, Vinicíus, Rodrigo, Camavinga, I think he has given a lot to the younger players. But we also need to focus on results at Real Madrid. So maybe it's a good balance, but at the same time, it doesn't make that much sense to have a transfer policy that's one way and the policy of the manager to be another way. So that would be a criticism for me of Ancelotti.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was a huge Ancelotti fan in his first tenure at Madrid. I was very young at the time, but I mean, this season, last season, he exceeded my expectations to the limit. I was not expecting that at all. This season, he's obviously there's been injuries and stuff. He's done well, but I don't think he's done well enough. That's just my take, I think another manager and maybe a few signings, because the club does need signings.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing, I don't want to drag this topic out because it's actually a Castilla podcast.
Yeah, but it's relevant that how much the younger players and everything. So I think it's very relevant to Castilla as well. The managing discussion. It will make a huge impact on how much the Castilla players and our academy players in general will get the opportunity.
Yeah. So I mean, I think other coaches more. Tuchel probably would have done, in my opinion, a better, not well enough to beat Barca to the league title, but he would probably make it a fair battle between Barca and Madrid. I mean, Ancelotti, I'm not giving him that much credit, but I don't really need to explain how many things I don't really like about Ancelotti. There are not many, but there are enough for me to look at other options and say, this guy is better for this team right now than Ancelotti. That's just my take.
Yeah, I see. So I think if Ancelotti got a better right back, better left back, better backup striker and everything, he would also have much better options. So I think our problems will still continue if we just make 0 signings this summer, and hopefully
that wouldn't change
make some
anything.
signings.
Yeah.
But I think the next manager would have almost exactly the same problems, and we would just have to pray and hope that Benzema would stay fit and perform. And apart from that, we have to make changes to the squad. I guess most people would agree changes to the squad, they are more important than changes to the manager. At least that's very clear for me. So, yeah.
I mean, changes to the squad are definitely a lot more important. But I think if both are done the right way, Madrid could, do really well, in my opinion.
Yeah, sure.
We do need a right back, though. I don't think Nagelsmann would like having Carvajal as a right back in 2023.
I mean, it's not a good situation, but well, let's wait and see. But first we have to see. There are quite a few games left in La Liga. We also have the Champions League, Copa del Rey. So I mean, we're talking now like Ancelotti will go no matter what. But that's not sure for sure. So let's see. But
besides that, I mean, Ancelotti, according to reports and the players that are like Vinicíus has talked about it, Rodrigo has talked about it, Ederson has talked about it, that he is probably going to become Brazil's manager next season.
Yeah.
So,
but just the last one on naturally. I don't think he will go if Real Madrid let him stay. So I think Real Madrid is his first option, but he will gladly take Brazil if that's what he has to. I mean, if he has to leave Real Madrid,
yeah.
Maybe we should. We said before the pod this would be a good moment to take some big picture stuff. So, Anything else we need to mention in this pod?
I don't really have anything to say. I mean, Castilla play again next week.
Yeah.
They do it every week, so I mean.
That's the advantage of following Castilla, that the international break is a little bit less international when you follow Castilla.
Yeah, that's why I was really looking forward to this game, but I got sick, so.
Yeah. Well, how many other things? I don't think I have. I don't think I have many more things to say. But yeah, it's good that we're back on the winning track, at least for Castilla. Yeah, Juvenil, by the way, still keep winning. I think if there's one thing that is for sure, it's that Arbeloa will be the Castilla coach next season. So if anything is clear for me, that will be, that's almost 100% sure.
Yeah. Arbeloa is doing well, for sure. I don't know that much. I don't think I know as much as you about how he's doing as a coach, but from what I've read, he's been excellent. He's doing
better than, it's almost impossible to do better than he has, because they're beating all kinds of records. But at the same time, it's always easy to be the under-19s coach. So, but it's looking good. It's good that we have I actually have started to believe a bit in Arbeloa as a coach. So let's see. It will be interesting to see. But first, we have an important part of the season to go with Castilla.
Yeah.
All right. Do we end it there?
Yep. I don't think there's anything to talk about.
Yeah. No, neither do I. All right. Let's try for a new pod, hopefully with Chris. Maybe a surprise visit from Sam. We have to mention it always.
Yeah. We keep hoping.
Yeah, we keep hoping. All right. Then we have to say thanks to our listeners, as always. And also remember, we're open for questions. If anyone has something they're wondering about, you can message us in. For example, for the Castilla Corner Twitter, we take questions if there's anything you wonder about. So
we are very serious about this. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the listeners, and thanks for the talk, Hridyam.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. Well, I mean, I did actually host the pod, so thank you for your time.
And
Ruben.
I hope you get better soon, so that we can both be healthy next week.
Yes, sir.
All right, perfect. Until next time, Ala Madrid.
Madrid.
Thanks for listening, guys. And before we wrap it up here and send you along on your way, we wanted to give a quick shout out to our patrons over on patreon.com/Managing Madrid, who do so much to support the show. Thank you guys for being on this journey with us and being a part of this ever-growing Real Madrid family. If you pledge $10 or more, not only do you get access to every single bonus content we do, and not only do you get guaranteed responses to your questions, but you also get a specific shout out on the podcast. So shout out to these $10 plus patrons as follows: Brandon Alvarez, Willie Reed, Will Sousa, Wei Paring, Wamik Jamal, Tobias Royal Botcher, Taleb Salhab, Tahmid Kalam, Sushank Damala, Sujai Wani, Sumanchu Singh, Sheikh Hatiri, Shamil, Shabaz Sharapov, Sergio Arispe, Santos Solorzano, Samuli Justin, Samer Z, Said Mahad, Sai Mohan, Sasi Kumar, Saad Omar, Rodrigo Balmaceda, Rishi D, Phoenix, Peter Powell, Paulo Fierro, Patrick Diafati, Astro Barrera, Nico Laxo, Nicholas Moeller, Nick Ribeiro, and then we got Nelson Mazariego, Mowgli, MJ Diego, Michael Zinberg, Marin Myrtle, Matthew Atkins, Martin Ridman, Magnus Lext, Logan Stahl, Leon Stavronakis, Kunal Tilakar, Crystal Glass, Kevin Rivera, Jose Cruz, John Fernandez, Jason Fitz, Ian Marley, Graham Gerard, Gary Kohut, Frederick Rantakiro, Frederick Sundros, S.A. Davisito, Eloy Enriquez, Edward Sossman, Daniel Williams, Connor McMorrow, Con P, Christian Toft, Christian Acosta, Charles Williams, Brendan Powers, Brandon Stevens, Ashik Bashar, Arnab Mukherjee, Armin Kashi, Armando L, Anirudh Singh, Andres Silvestre, Ananya Kumar, Alex Steiberg, Alex Rose, Azaz Hussein, Adrian Rios, Adar Zalukovic, Adam Dorsey, Bella Chow, Ramtin Maghrur, Manaf Al-Haddad, Fabian Moreno, and Daniel Smith. We love you guys so much. Thank you, and Hridyam.